Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a business growth expert where I help business owners grow and scale to create wealth and freedom. And today, I have an awesome guest. He's an entrepreneur, investor, coach, and the director and principal at Finwell Group, where he provides a variety of financial services. He is motivated to help people do better, both financially and in life. And he achieves this through sharing his knowledge in accounting, financial planning, finance, and investment advisory. And he's helped thousands of Australians financially using his 20 plus years in financial services. And he has many qualifications and experience, including being a qualified accountant, financial planner, mortgage broker, and property agent. So he has the passion and knowledge to help you do better financially. Welcome, Adam Carmody, and thank you for being on my show.
Thanks, Athin. It's great to be here, mate. Thanks for the invite. Look, I have spent over 20 years doing being in the financial services space, and I always find people can get so much benefit from so many different avenues, and it's always good to get the opportunity to sit down and share some of that knowledge with someone like yourself, who's obviously got a broad base of listeners, and as do I. So yeah, looking forward to sharing with everyone today.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I'm sure it's going to be great for everyone watching, listen today with your wealth of knowledge. And yeah, you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Yeah, no worries. Look, I grew up in a country town called Albury, which is a small place. There's nearly, I think it's about 120,000 people these days. And it's in between New South Wales and Victoria. And I grew up in a mechanics family. So my father was an entrepreneur. He started his own business. Amazing man, very thorough, very honourable, high integrity. And on my weekends and in the school holidays, I used to work in my father's business and help with the bookwork because I was very passionate about numbers. And so, as life went on, my mother got quite ill and stopped doing the books. And so I started doing the books in my latter years of school for the business, which was helping out my dad's business. And then I ended up working with him as a mechanic and doing some of the books with him through the period before I left to go and live in Melbourne, chasing my then girlfriend, now wife. And it was a fascinating way of growing up and learning about business. Small business in a small country town, it's all about communication lines and doing the right thing by every person because everyone knows everyone, right? And it was such a great upbringing for entrepreneurship because, as a mechanic, if you don't put things back together correctly, you might notice cars don't go so well. It taught me a lot of lessons about being very thorough and trying to make sure that the system through which you do things is really thorough. You put your tools back in the right place and they're easy to find later. Things don't run without fuel in them. These sorts of logics were things that I learned from my dad, and I'm so appreciative. He retired at 78. I encouraged him to keep working forever. And helped him out with his business as I grew, in my own knowledge. When I got to the city, I got a job in a financial planning practice as the company accountant, and looking after the books for a planning business and learning what it was all about. And lots of learnings there, and moved through my career through various organisations. Worked for a major bank, worked for a major fund manager. Took leadership positions in a very large financial services group, now used to be called Shadforth, and now it's been bought out a few times, and now is institutionally owned. But I always wanted to help mums and dads. No matter what I do, I always just see that helping mums and dads is really what my purpose is. I want to help people, help many others, and that purpose is really driving me to get as much information to people as I possibly can. The businesses I run today, they're actually focused on education first and then service later. So, if you understand what you're going to do or what you're doing or what you're trying to do, you can't be the adverse effect of it. Right? So if you understand, you'll make a decision that's in your interest rather than being dragged off to do something that someone else wants you to do for their agenda. I think educate first has always been a thing that I'm very passionate about, hence an opportunity to come and talk on a show like this, mate. I really appreciate it. It gives me a chance to follow my purpose, which is to help people better understand what they're doing.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love it. Powerful story. And I can see some similarities, me growing up in Adelaide, which is a capital city, but more like a big country town. And then, moving to Sydney, to the big city like Melbourne. So I can see a lot of similarity there, and getting outside of our comfort zones and really carving our own way, which is really awesome, mate. And yeah, you've got a lot of experience and knowledge in a lot of different areas. And I know you're well phased in business, and especially like there's a lot of different phases. And I know there's 3 key phases of business, right, that you know about and educate people on. So share with us what these phases are and a bit more about them.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, having started a number of businesses myself, I currently run 5 businesses with a few business partners, and the things that like, I think things are a lot easier to handle when they're broken down into small chunks. And so, when you're running a business, the very first thing you're going to run into is startup phase. And so startup phase, in my view, is it's really leader driven. The person who's starting the thing, it's all on them. And you really have to focus on what it is that your goal is and what you're trying to achieve and how you're going about it. So startup phase would be phase 1. And to get out of startup phase, it's a lot of coping and a lot of organizing and getting yourself organized to be able to produce the thing that you're doing in your startup. And, I found I've been through startup phase heaps of times. I think I've started and closed 4 businesses. And one of them was sold, but the other 3 were started and failures. And you look at it, I look at it as actually a falling forward. I improved a lot because of starting those businesses. One of them was a gold and silver merchant. I didn't tell you about this when we caught up last. And the startup phase is so important to just stay on your purpose. What am I trying to achieve? What's the big goal I have? And not let go of it. And cope and organize, and eventually get to a point where you've got enough revenue coming in to be able to start to implement systems. Now, my view is phase 2 of a business is systems building, or the systems phase, I call it. And if you use the analogy that there's either that somebody has to be building the systems all the time in that phase, but you still have to keep the going concern going and the money coming in the door. I'm a huge believer that phase is the make-break point of most businesses, because if you can't systemize, it can't have any scale, right? So we're in the danger zone here. It's the red zone, if you like, and in the red zone, you need to get good people around you. Now, a lot of the times when I've built businesses, the success factor has actually been the people who help with the systems building. It's not the people who keep the going concern going. It's the people who help with the systems building that are the primary. And those people are going to be the people that actually remove the confusions and align the flows, right? So removing confusions and aligning flows is the systems builder's purpose. And I'm a huge believer that if you get that bit right, very, very quickly, the business can scale. It can have things on top of it. It can have a lot more staff running the various roles within the business. And you'll see any business that you've seen scale quite large, quite promptly, if they haven't got the systems building phase right, it's doomed. It's doomed. And so, after you get through the systems building phase, it gets to a certain point where the business, through the systems and their use, becomes sustainable, which is the 3rd phase of a business. Now, in my businesses, my 5 businesses, 2 of them are fully in sustainable phase. Like, I literally could not be there, and those businesses will just run themselves because I've got a really good leader in there. I've delegated a lot of the responsibility, and the people who are in there are fully running those businesses. And, that means they are sustainable. They will keep going as long as the people keep using the systems and aligning the flows and removing the confusions. We're going to end up with those businesses being here long term, as long as they don't get innovated out of the market, which we'll talk about a bit later, I'm sure. But the other 3 businesses are, in the middle of systems building. And I don't believe that, until the systems are what I'd say is sustainable, meaning I can step away from them and not look at changing them anymore, that business is going to go into sustainable. So, the jury's not out. I'm still very much there helping the assigned leader help me build that business, but I'm also doing the doingness of some of those businesses so that they are successful. So those 3 phases: startup, which is, it's all on you; systems building, which I believe is on you and another, or you and many others; and then sustainable are the 3 phases of business that I've seen every single business owner go through. And you look at some of those monolith businesses, like Apple or something like that. How did they get to where they are from zero? And they went through startup, they went through systems building, and now they're long run sustainable. So yeah, that's a summary of the 3 phases of business.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Love that. Really powerful, and I love the simplicity of all of that. And one point that I'd say, like, that sustainable stage that you mentioned is like, under management, you've got a couple of those businesses, which is great. You don't have to do anything. But sometimes, it's great as you've got multiple businesses, but sometimes you actually may want to be involved, because we don't want to just play golf every day and do something else at the same time. So at least in one of your businesses, unless you're like, 80 years old, 100 years old, you probably want to be in it. So you don't have to get everything under management where you're doing nothing at the same time. But I love that. That's how you really buy back your time and, be able to grow your empire and all of your wealth, which I know you focus on those numbers. So really powerful systems there. And I guess, with me, I've got my Fast Track MBA system, right, which is, it's got 3 main stages, which are, design, deal, and deliver, and 3 sub areas in each of them. And this is really what I think every business owner needs, and every business needs to really be successful. If we start getting into a bit more of the detail here now on what it takes to really go up those, phases that you're talking about. The first phase here is the design phase. And this is where I see the 3 key areas are strategy, planning, and mindset, right? Where we need to know the direction we're going in, how we're going to plan, for our success. And then, maybe there's some mindset shifts that need to happen for us to do that. So I'd love to hear, your thoughts on these areas of business and on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, look, strategy, planning, and mindset, if you look at it as your first phase, if you think with the idea around what startups are going to do in strategy, planning, and mindset, you're going to basically go, what am I trying to achieve? How am I going to achieve it? And what sort of person needs to be there to run it? And if you could actually literally define those things out, you're actually going to find yourself in a really good place. Now, what's interesting, strategy, planning, and mindset then could be applied to the systems building phase as well, right? And if you think with systems building, if you don't have a strategy for what the systems are going to end up delivering, really what's the point in systemizing? You're systemizing for no defined goal. And the mindset that you have as a systems builder versus a startup is very different, because you're working with other people now, right? You've got to start getting some reasonableness about, what is that person trying to achieve, and what's their role, and what's my role. And I see a lot of undefined business in that particular point. The systems building phase gets broken in strategy, planning, and mindset. If we define what strategy is, it's what are you trying to do? What's the game plan, the big picture game plan that you're about? And then planning would be, what tactics do I need to implement it? And then mindset, I actually think the entrepreneur mindset is something that's, it's everyone wants to have it. But I think I have met a lot of people, some people, have you got a business or a job is a question I often have asked people, because, they're in startup phase. They've been in startup phase for 10 years. They haven't been able to systemize because they're always in cope. Have you got a business or a job? And, you see that happen in entrepreneurship quite a bit. I'm sure you've met plenty yourself. And, for those of you who are here, you can get out of this thing, but you've got to learn to delegate. That's the thing. The key message from me on startup phase is, if you can't learn to delegate, you won't get into systems phase, and you won't get out of systems phase. And so, I think that mindset piece is the biggest piece of the wheel, because it's if you think about a hamster wheel, it's not going to go around if someone's not pushing it. And I think we need to get ourselves to a mindset that we actually, the only way to grow is to delegate. And I reckon that first bit that you've got there, it actually fits across all of them. When you get to sustainable, I reckon the planning piece around sustainable business, it actually becomes, it's bigger, it's less mobile, it's less, it's more structured, it's harder to change. And really your challenges around planning are always going to be to do with innovation and change management, which are a different area altogether, and a different mindset is needed to tackle those areas. Like, you can't change things all the time when you're in sustainable phase. Like it's, an entrepreneur doesn't belong in a business the size of Apple going, let's change the whole business model. Let's make a phone into a set of glasses. It's not that easy. You don't just change. So I really like the way you've cut that up, that particular part of it. Athin, it's quite a sane way, because it attacks each of the 3 phases of business in a really sane way. The second one was the deal phase, right?
Yeah, love that, man. Really powerful there. And yeah, you're right. Depending on the level you're at, you can do different strategies, planning, and mindset. So I love how you shared that and the things about it. And the next phase, yes, is the deal phase. So this is where I focus on branding, marketing, and sales. And this is really, the engine of the business. I guess it's really going to help it to grow, over time. So I'd love to hear, your point of view around, branding, marketing, and sales.
Yeah, well, look, I'm quite passionate about branding, marketing, and sales because I actually act as sales manager for parts of the businesses that I haven't got in sustainable phase. And if you look at like the whole concept of a brand is a very interesting idea, particularly in startup phase. What is the brand of the business is often just the leader and their personality, right? Which is quite an interesting situation. With the advent of AI, obviously brand could end up being some digital version of you. Athin, I've always wanted to be blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm going to work that out shortly. But the idea around brand in startup phase, I honestly think it's probably it's you, right? And then we go into marketing. Marketing is your ability to communicate your message, and making good works well known or making your job well known that you've just succeeded at. Is the best way of marketing yourself and your brand in startup phase. Because you're in startup, often you're the salesman, you're the production manager, you're the ops manager, you're the finance, you're the HR, you're the everything, right? So this brand awareness of who is it that I'm wanting this business to be, that being marketed well comes back to your own personality and your ability to do that. And without sales, there is no business. So, I find one of the main failures in startup phase is actually, and having met thousands of business owners, it's always the sell heaps and then attention all goes into production of what I just sold and I'm not selling anymore, right? And then, so we have this wiggly line. So if you measure what you're doing, which we're going to talk about in a minute, if you measure what you're doing, your sales are going to look like this. And the downs are always when all the attention's on producing. And I don't know whether you've noticed this. I've noticed this in all service businesses, right? They sell in startup phase, and then they go crunch, and the sales go to the floor, and then the production goes in, right? And oddly enough, unless you've got a really good ability to do those two things at once, which we'll all gravitate to what we're comfortable with, by the way. We all love to do particular parts of the business. Some people love doing the details-oriented, production-oriented stuff. Some people love sales and marketing. So I think there's that dichotomy that's going on as well. So, in startup phase, I think we've got a real attention needed to put a routine around sales is the key thing to do in startup. And then when we get into sustainable phase, I actually am a huge believer that, we really need to put systems in around, your sales and marketing management. What is it I'm doing from a sales perspective? And if you've done your planning correctly, you'll actually have a brand strategy and a marketing strategy that you've already done. And in systems building, what we're going to do is we're going to put a frame around that so that it's very, very, very measured in the way that it's done. So you're not wasting money on marketing because you can spend a fortune on marketing and get no results, right? So unless you're measuring it, unless you're correcting, unless you're adjusting, unless you're staying relevant, how's your product going to be out there in people's faces? So, for me, I find this is the area where it's a make-break point of the business again, because the person who's doing the systems, if it is the leader, if you're the systems guy as well, your attention's not on sales. Your attention's on whether process A has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P in it. And, your attention comes off that for 5 minutes, you're not selling. So you get where I'm coming from. There's huge distractions from the going concern that go on. And I think that in your planning, you need to put time into this. You need to put time into brand. You need to put time into marketing. And you absolutely need to not drop your attention on sales. So that's systems building. Jumping into the next one, which is, we're getting into sustainable phase. You'll find the systems that you build and the planning you did around sales and marketing, as long as you're measured, you're then going to start to focus on brand. Because this thing is now a monster, right? You think about Apple, you think about what? Instantly, I think of ease of use, right? That's what I think of. That was Steve Jobs' mantra, ease of use, everyday consumers being able to do complex things very easily. I won't go into food brands because I don't want to advertise any of them. But you're getting to, you get the point that sustainable, it's going to be a very different story. So you can see how in the phases of your business, sales and marketing or branding, sales and marketing have very different meanings. But if I'm you and I'm in startup, anyone who's listening, I'd be jumping straight on the idea of I need to be selling something now. I am my brand. I am my marketing strategy. I don't need to spend a lot of time on this stuff. Get some products sold, get them delivered, get your lines grooved, so you know what it is you're delivering and how you're going to deliver it. That way it becomes easier to sell. The more times you've sold your service or product, the easier it becomes to sell next time.
Yeah, love that, mate.
Yeah, that's the deal phase.
That's awesome. And I'd love to just delve maybe a little bit deeper here on one area, right? Because I think I see, like, yes, sales, I agree, is the most important skill, right? And we need to build that as ourselves, or then eventually our team to do that. But I think marketing is where a lot of businesses, fail, right? Because without getting the leads in to the system, you can't necessarily close the sales, right? Even though it's the most important. So I think marketing on how you do that is a really powerful thing. So I'd love to hear from your perspective, because you've got some large businesses here, and there's a thing called like a marketing machine, the term, and things like that, where you can, know if you're going to put a certain amount of money in, you're going to, get something out of it right there. So what are your thoughts and some tips around how we can think about, having a marketing machine, for our business?
Yeah, well, I'm a really huge believer in the concept of surveying, right? So I don't think if you don't know who you are trying to talk to, your message is never going to get across. So what I would suggest that anyone needs to know is, and people talk a lot about this whole concept of a client avatar, right? So who bought off me last? What did they think before they bought off me, and what led to them finding me? So a good quick five question survey at the end of a purchase. We use Net Promoter Score in my business, right? If you know what Net Promoter Score is when you measure the propensity of someone to refer you to their friends or family at the end of the service that you provide. That's what Net Promoter Score is. And the higher the score, the more propensity for them to refer. Now, if you do surveying correctly, you can get the Net Promoter Score, which is obviously an advertisable thing, and also tells you how many people are raving fans of your product or service, gives you feedback on the process that you've just delivered and whether you can improve it or not. And then it actually allows you to share the good works well known in testimonials, right? So I believe surveying has those three components in it, right, which is the ability to market, I did a good job, the opportunity to change if something's broken, and the reason someone bought off me. Right. And if you grab those things, you'll then be able to understand what a marketing message is. Now, the amount of business owners I see that they just build a website and they think, I can do a lead funnel and I'll get all these, it'll be leads for days, and there's a lot of marketers out there who are selling that idea to people too. But, without a good solid survey of what it is that you're trying to sell, who you're trying to sell to, and a good understanding of the need you're trying to fill, I believe it's going to be very hard to market your product, especially if you're in a very busy universe. You look at how many messages we're getting every day, everywhere we go. You jump on your socials, you've got a bazillion messages from various, organizations, and the way that that we're fed information these days. We're definitely not short of things being fed to us to put our attention on, right? So what we need to do is find out who your customer is, know what that avatar is, and then the marketing void that you need to get into is, how do I communicate my message to that person? What product or service am I selling? Where's their buying decision made? How do I get myself into the lead into that buying decision to be able to get that product in that person's hands? And, having met thousands of business owners and seen the various ways people market, for example, in financial services, I know for a fact that I want to deal with people who want to be educated. Right? I want to deal with people who want to be educated. This is my purpose, right? Help many people, help many others, right? And creating financial sanity for people are my two, one of them's my own purpose and the other one's my business purpose. That business purpose can't be met if I don't meet people who are willing to read and learn. So where am I going to go with my marketing? I'm going to go to my avatar as someone who likes to read and learn. So I'm going to go find those people. So how do I find those people? I put out content that's educational. I consistently and thoroughly educate when I meet people. I obtain testimony from people who like to learn and grow. These things all add up to furthering the message of, hey, we're a help group. We're trying to give you guys a hand in better understanding things. So, you know, if you're in a different service, like if I was in cybersecurity, for example, what would I do? You know, I want to show people how I bloody stop them from being taken advantage of. You know, I want to protect their data. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put out content that's going to be to do with this. If I'm in business consulting, I'm going to run a podcast and I'm going to interview people who are successful in business and share that information for my public. You know, so I totally agree with you. You live and die by your marketing and your ability to convert those people initially. But you know what? If you were the most amazing, here's a question for you. I'm going to return it back on you, Athin. If you were the best marketer in the entire universe, right, you would have more work than what you could deliver. And you'd have a lot of very unsatisfied people. So I want people to think with this, because I actually think it's a really good thought, is if you get so successful in your marketing, Athin, that you have too many people to service, your price is going to go up, right? Because of demand.
Yeah.
Because there's so much demand now, Athin's time's worth, blah. So what are we going to do? We're going to try and organize ourselves so we can deliver to more people at volume so they get the value that you have to produce. And so maybe sub-introductory services, you know, things that don't require a lot of human capital to deliver, you know, and this is a great marketing tool, guys, is, you know, get yourself introductory services that give people insights in regards to how they could be served by you. And that way it's a small rock, then a bigger rock, then a bigger rock, and then the, you know, the lobster, if you like, or whatever. You know, so I totally agree with you on the whole concept that marketing is such an important element, Athin. But I also think the belief of the business owner and their ability to deliver on a quality marketing campaign at the end of it is going to be the mainstay of whether it's successful or not. And it's interesting, like if you think about the business as a pipe, we're only going to attract enough leads to be able to go through the pipe. Because if the pipe gets smaller, what's going to happen? Enough dissatisfied people are going to tell everyone that they were dissatisfied, and then your lead funnel gets smaller to meet your business. It's like an energy, isn't it? Like, so if we can get ourselves to a point where we actually see we're going to meet our frequency. You believe in frequency, do you?
Definitely, yeah.
I reckon if we all think about it like we're just a big radio station, and our radio station's going to go at the tune that we're able to operate at. And the better you get in your ability to communicate what frequency you're at, you'll attract the people who are ready for your service. And it's, you know, the one thing I will say to everyone who's listening, if you don't outflow, you won't get leads. So you got to have a constant, like the marketing machine that you mentioned. That was a very good comment. If you don't have a machine outflowing for you, you need to start one so that then you're always required to be selling to get more business in the door. Because otherwise, it's the pulse of your business. It's the blood through the veins of your business. We have to be selling all the time. And I've made this mistake a number of times, Athin, where I haven't marketed well. I've changed my marketing strategy from a successful marketing strategy to a poor one a few times because I love changing things. I'm obsessed with change, you know, and I learned some great lessons there. And, you know, to be fair to the audience, I think that, you know, people see successful people and they see this, you know, hey, that's an immaculate example. And I can tell you underneath that immaculate example, there's some terrible decisions that they were willing to work through and persist on. And, you know, marketing's an area where you can break your business. And I really do encourage people to put in a lot of work around their planning, around their marketing strategy, especially if they're in systems building. Make sure your marketing strategy stays in. Do what works, not new things untried. Right? Do what works. Whatever worked to get you a sale before will work again. It's not like, you know, you don't make miracles in selling, particularly in the service businesses. You know, do what worked would be the thing I would say is the biggest tip.
Yeah, I love it, mate. It's a really powerful section. I love all the details and the specifics that you said there. And yes, as entrepreneurs, we can get that shiny object syndrome and go, oh, let me try all these other things. But that can take us away from what's actually working. So make sure you continue to do what you're currently doing, but maybe test other things. And Adam, you know, talked a lot about testing there, right? Because there is a lot of testing in marketing there until you sort of, you know, crack the code, so to speak, on your business on what's going to really work in that machine so you can move people along that phase. So I loved, delving deeper into that. And now let's talk about the final stage of my model, which is called the deliver stage, where, you know, I focus on numbers, systems, and leadership. And this is really, yeah, as we're going through your phases there, right, is these really key components of making sure that we know. And I know numbers, you know, obviously is a really strong point, obviously, with you as well. So I'd love to hear, yeah, generally, you know, your thoughts on these, but maybe, yeah, delve a little bit more into the numbers initially first, because all of these are all big topics in themselves.
Yeah, they really are. Look, I'll probably start off by saying, you know, numbers are the key to systems, and they're also the key to leadership. Like everything in life comes back to numbers, actually, if you really look at it. And, you know, I think there's a mantra, what you measure gets done. Right now, I've met people who've had very complex measurement structures within their businesses, and it's made a very cumbersome situation. So I think numbers are only meaningful if they're used. And so I believe that the best way of using numbers or thinking with numbers is actually to get a person responsible for every number that you have in your business that you measure, because you need a person attached to the number. So that would be what I would say would be the first key metric. Now, when you're in startup phase, there aren't many numbers, right? Your numbers situation is going to come back to how many leads am I generating? How many people am I trying to sell to? So, you know, prospects to lead. How many people am I trying to sell to? What's my conversion rate? How many did I sell to? Then what did I get paid? And then has it been produced? And when it went out the door. And then you can have an error ratio, but really you don't need to. So there's really four numbers there that aren't too difficult to track. And if you're selling your product correctly for something that will deliver at a price that will deliver a profit, you'll then be able to measure your profit and go, right, now I know how much it took me to deliver that amount of service. You know, and if you look backwards on your numbers around your financials, you'll be able to see whether your startup phase is producing your return or not. And if it's not, what do? You change one of the metrics. Did I have enough leads? Did I set enough appointments? Did I close enough deals? Did I produce enough of what I sold? Right? And you just keep running those numbers until you get to a point where you've got a system for measuring what it is that you're doing and garnering the success of it, doing more of what was successful and less of what wasn't. And it's pretty easy if you've got that set of numbers. And that's what I've done in every business that I've done in startup phases. You know, measured leads, measured conversion on leads, measured production of what we did with the leads, and then looked at the financials. So that's kind of a very basic framework for what you do in startup phase. On numbers in sustainable, we're going to get into a little bit more complexity, right? Because we've got a systems builder there. So what numbers make the greatest difference to my bottom line? And so we start getting into more complex numbers and bigger measurement of those numbers. So instead of just measuring how many leads do I generate, how many people did I try and sell to, and whether I sold to them or not, I would go, what did I do to get those leads in? And how much of that do I need to do to get more leads in? Right? Because there's a point of optimal output to get a result. So you're wanting to test until you find out what that is. You know, you can send out 50 emails on, you know, meet Athin and have a chat with him about, you know, management consulting for their business. And I know you're magnificent at it, mate. But you know, you can send out only so many emails in that particular area to get a certain amount of reach. And there is a point. You know, we found out, you know, I think it was 300 emails to our existing database, and we elicited the optimum level of response. But we just did it enough times to then go, this produced that many, 400 produced this many, 200 produced that many, 120 produced that many, 400, you know, and so on and so forth, until we found, oh wow, that one there got, you know, 19% open rate and blah, 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 blah. And so you get a bit more complex in the numbers around lead gen. Then you get a bit more complex in the numbers around sales, because you might have more salespeople in systems building phase. So you get a bit more into the sales metrics. How's our closing rate? Do we need some training? How many appointments did they set? How much sitting around time did they have? What time did they work? How many hours are they working? You know, these sorts of things. You start to get into a bit more of a sales, you know, the more people you have, you get more of a sales management approach to what you're doing in systems building phase. And then you come out of that and into the production area, right? And you're starting to go, you know, the in, processing and out, you know, how many times did we get a sale that came in? How quick did we produce the product or service or whatever it is? And then when did it get out the door or finished? if you measure that, the timing of those, you can start to improve them, right? And so in systems building phase, you're going to get the numbers and you're going to use them to create efficiencies. And as I said, what gets measured gets done. So, you'll make someone responsible for each of those metrics and the delivery of them. And the bigger you get, the more specialized those metrics become for that particular job post that you've got in your organizational chart. Right, then we jump over from there with the numbers into, we're getting into sustainable phase. The numbers board that you have for a sustainable phase business might be 25 numbers or 30 numbers or 50 numbers. And those 50 numbers will each have a person attached to them and their output, so that that person can then own that statistic, so you can better manage that person. And also, by having measurement, how much more satisfying is your job when you can measure the direct outcome you create? So this comes to culture and leadership, right? How much better is a place to work when you know what you produced has added value? And so I think without measurement, and I see a lot of businesses, they have measurement without systems. And I'm like, what's the point in measuring without a system? So going to the second part of what you were talking about, which is systemization. And systems covers, the 3 phases of business, but to less of a degree in startup, to more of a degree in systems building, and then to an enormous degree it goes to leadership as the issue, or better wording for it, because leadership is very different than management. Management is the key to systems in sustainable phase. Management, right? Not leadership, management. And management being aligning suppressing the confusions and aligning the flow of traffic through your business is what management is. That management of your business is increased in volume and requirement as you go through startup into systems building to a much greater degree, and then enormously in sustainable. So you can see how systems get more thick, more long on the ground. There's more rules, there's more gates to go through as you grow in maturity as a business owner. And the 2 businesses that I've got that I don't actually have to participate in anymore, they are so systemized, it's not funny. They are sustainable. They have a manager on every statistic, over the top of the person who's doing this. So it's kind of the differences between that business and one of my businesses in startup phase is that I'm really, I'm in the deep end of the pool, swimming around in the pool, trying to organize and keeping on innovating, and that didn't work, this didn't work, and it's all on the fly without measurement. So I think systems, in your context here, Athin, you can look at systems as part of your review. It's like, and I think that from a project management perspective, I really like the way you've set up your three sections, with the 3 parts, because I actually do think that you could literally go around in a circle through these parts and come back to systems and come back to systems and come back to systems. And the fact you used numbers before, I was quite impressed, because, without numbers, how valuable are the systems?
Definitely.
So, then we get to the last bit, which is leadership, right? And if we look at leadership as a thing, what is a leader? And I've had this question asked a lot of times, and I would reverse the flow here, but I'm sure you've talked about leadership quite a bit on your show, mate. I'm a huge believer that, people are led by people who inspire them, right? They're willing to be led by people who inspire them. So, all those business owners out there who are watching this, are you someone that your people who you work with want to be like? Do they want to be like you? Will they follow you into battle to get things solved? Will they? And if they won't, why won't they? Do you have people who are really on the bus or not? And I think our ability to lead comes back to our ability to communicate. I still know the talent that work in my business, the fantastic people who I'm so lucky to have. I'm really blessed. I've got very low staff turnover. They're great people. They're good humans. They want to help people. And I talk to them about that every day, and I show them. I don't tell them, I show them, so they see me make decisions. I town hall when I have to handle a problem or a complaint, and I've changed the word complaint to the word opportunity in my business, because it's an opportunity for our business to be better. Someone is honestly giving us feedback so we can be better. Now, the problem with being in startup phase when you're a leader, you're everything. all roads lead to the manager, right? Any confusion goes to the manager. I talked about that before. You know, your manager's job is to align the flows and remove the confusions through your business. So if that's the manager's job and there isn't any managers and you're in startup phase, who's aligning the flows and removing the confusions? It's you, right? And if it's you, you're going to get really stressed. Like I've seen some very stressful times. You know, when 5 or 6 things go wrong at once, I've seen people get overwhelmed, right? So I think that one of the biggest tips you can have as a leader is to remember that your brand as a business is worn on your chest. You are the super human in your business, the superhero in your business that keeps it going. So what we need to do is we need to project that being onto our group all the time, that I am someone that will inspire you and help you and make sure that this business grows, and you will do a great job with me because I'm going to help you do that. And if you don't have systems, processes, you don't have what you need, you don't have the tools to do your job, I'm there. You know, I'm there. I'm the problem solver. And when there is a problem within my business, there's no problem that's too much for me. I never say no to my talent when they ask me for help. I just ask them questions. How could you solve that? How could you solve that? If you solve your talent's problems for them, it's a recipe for being so overwhelmed. It's not funny. So, you know, when you come through my door to talk to me, like, you know, imagine you're the CEO of a 10, 15, 20 people group. If it doesn't say on your door, this room is for you to deliver the solutions. You to deliver the solutions on coming in, tell me how to solve what you're about to ask me. If you haven't done that thinking, don't enter.
Yeah.
And what do you get? You get a bunch of inspired people who want to give you problems. When they give you the answer, you know, have you read Extreme Ownership?
Yes, Extreme Ownership, yeah.
Cracker of a guy. You know, the whole idea of giving people responsibility, like responsibility and accountability is the key to leadership. You know, it's okay to not deliver if you're willing to communicate with me about it, because, you know, there's either willing and able, there's unwilling and able, there's unwilling and unable. You know, most of the people who work within your organization already, I found, are always willing and able. They've just got confusions about being able, right? Because if they're willing, there's always an ability to train and help the person. I've been through this quite a bit. We've got a few businesses that we've been working with over the recent period, Athin, and there's been some tough conversations they were just unwilling to have. They had very unwilling people who were able, who were working for them. Very unwilling. And I was like, if you've got people who are unwilling, your ship's going to go slower forever. You've got, you know, bags of weight of sand in your business that's making you not function. And the amount of times it might be only a couple per business, but every business that I meet, whenever we put in measurement, we ever put in numbers, you put in numbers and all of a sudden people resign and you're like, those people don't like being measured. Why don't they like being measured, Athin? You know, it's why don't they like being measured? You know, so, you know, mate, I love this topic. You know, I really like the way you've set up your management consulting structure. I think it's very valid. It fits all the phases of business, and, you know, super passionate about it.
Yeah, awesome, mate. That was a lot of gold that you shared there. I'm sure everyone's hopefully they've been writing notes and stuff of what Adam shared with us there. And I loved about the leadership part, right? Because that's the big thing. We can't do it all ourselves. We need to grow and our team. And you know, even, you know, there's a mindset element, you know, I talked about before, but there's a coaching element here, because what Adam said there was he makes them into a mindset of being solutions focused, and he asks the right questions to them. He doesn't do the mentoring side and give them the answer. He asks the right questions, right? So understanding that is really, really powerful, because questions are the answers a lot of the time, and being able to, and sometimes when people come to you with what it is, it's a surface level thing. You actually need to dig a bit deeper, because there's a deeper thing there, and understanding that. So, you know, I love all the coaching side. Obviously, I help the business owners, but I also empower them to be able to ask the right questions to their team. So, yeah, so much value, mate, that you've shared today. I loved all of this and how you intersected it with the 3 phases of business. It's so powerful and can really help anybody at, you know, any stage in their business. And I guess as we're wrapping up here today, what one key piece of advice would you like to give to all the entrepreneurs watching and listening today?
My biggest tip would be to never go past anything you don't understand. It's a mantra from my father. don't go past things you don't understand. If you don't understand it, stop and ask, you know, because there's so much gold. And I learned this the best from my talent who work for me. Like, if they've got a reason that they're doing something, just ask. Like, it's actually okay. There's no really ugly question. Hey, you seem like you're troubled. What's up? You know, I don't know why you're looking that way. Or, you know, I'm talking to someone like you, Athin, and you say something. A lot of people aren't willing to ask, oh, I'm confused about that. Can you tell me what you meant? The amazing things you learn from asking questions. It's, you know, the world is just full of unbelievably talented people. And, you know, you ask the right questions and you can find out some amazing things that could well change the trajectory of your business and your life. So, yeah, don't go past things you don't understand.
Yeah. Love that, mate. I completely agree with that. So powerful. And yeah, we connected through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey from, you know, starting financial planning with so many different businesses and now being the director and principal at Finwell Group. You know, you're an amazing guy, an awesome guy, and so knowledgeable, and so much value you've shared here today. And I'm sure you'll continue to help people do better, both financially and in life. And very grateful that we connected, and I look forward to working with you. So, Adam, how can people find you, get in contact with you?
Yeah, no worries. So we've got a website, finwellgroup.com.au. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. I think it's at Finwell Group. There's a couple of giveaways there, so jump on. Feel free to grab the list, which I created some time ago. Been running that for many years. It's a freebie, but it really is. If you implement that into your life, it's a game changer. So yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Athin. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I always love talking to you, and look forward to catching up again soon, mate. Be great.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Thanks, guys. Definitely check out Finwell Group with websites and socials, and his giveaway there is so much value that Adam provides to his clients and just everyone out there. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. And if you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. And I completely agree with you. Or do I? The only way we know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.